Number 7. Dodge Dart. The Dodge Dart outsold the Chevrolet Vega in every single year the two cars competed for the same American buyer. That fact does not appear in most conversations about the 1970s compact market because the Vega generated litigation, congressional testimony, and 8 major recall campaigns that produced enough documentation to fill a shelf. The Dart generated none of those things. It generated mileage. The slant-six engine that powered the majority of Darts built in the decade was the same unit that Chrysler had introduced in 1959 and had been refining ever since. 30 degrees off vertical, with oil distribution geometry that extended the engine's service intervals beyond what competing inline sixes required. Between 1963 and 1976, American buyers purchased 3,738,121 Dodge Darts. In 1974, combined Dart and Valiant sales exceeded 700,000 units, placing the A-body Chrysler Compact ahead of every domestic competitor. The mechanics who serviced them told their next customer. The owners who drove them to 200,000 miles without internal engine work became the word-of-mouth advertising that Chrysler never had to pay for. Number 6. Dodge Aspen. Motor Trend awarded the 1976 Dodge Aspen its Car of the Year. The recall notices started arriving before the model year was out. The front fender panels on early Aspens rusted through so severely in the first production year that Chrysler issued a recall to replace them at no charge, an acknowledgement in metal and labor costs that the stampings had left the factory inadequately protected against corrosion. Additional campaigns followed, covering brake, electrical, and subframe integrity across 1976 production. The car that Motor Trend had selected as the best new vehicle of the year became, within 18 months, the most recalled compact in American automotive history. Despite its documented problems, the Aspen sold in large numbers because it was the compact Dodge available, and the buyer in 1976 needed a car. Its styling was clean, its dealer network intact, and its price competitive with imports taking increasing market share. Number 5. Dodge Coronet. Nobody ordered a Dodge Coronet because it was the most exciting car in the Dodge showroom. They ordered it because it was the right size. The Coronet occupied the center of the Dodge lineup, larger than the Dart and less expensive than the full-size Monaco, serving the American family that had decided a midsize was precisely what its situation required. Its B-body platform, shared with the Charger and the Plymouth Satellite, gave it the structural integrity that accommodated family use, commercial fleet applications, and the police package configurations that law enforcement agencies purchased alongside the Monaco. The Coronet's station wagon variant gave families with cargo requirements a mid-size option that the Dart wagon's smaller interior could not provide. Its sedan configurations sold steadily in the fleet market, where procurement decisions favored the B-body's documented durability over smaller platforms that generated higher per-mile maintenance costs. By 1975, Chrysler had phased out the Coronet, folding its position into the Monaco. But through the first half of the decade, the Coronet was the mid-sized Dodge that families, taxi companies, and fleet administrators all chose for the same reason: the right size, the right price, the right network.
Number 4. Dodge Monaco. In 1980, John Belushi stood on the stage in a film and described the car he was about to drive as having a cop motor, cop tires, cop suspension, and cop shocks. The car was a 1974 Dodge Monaco. The Blues Brothers grossed over $115 million worldwide and introduced the Monaco to an audience that had previously only seen it in rearview mirrors. But the police departments that had been buying pursuit-rated Monaco since 1974 did not need a film to explain the car's appeal. They had already bought it in the numbers that made it a constant presence on every American highway. The Monaco's C-body platform, Chrysler's full-size architecture, supported a 440 cubic inch V8 in police pursuit specification that gave law enforcement the sustained high-speed capability that commercial and municipal use required. Chrysler shuffled the Monaco nameplate to the B-body platform in 1977, a change that dedicated Mopar observers still discuss. But the C-body Monaco of 1974 to 1976 is the version that American roads remember and American film has preserved. But while the Monaco was keeping the peace on the highways, Dodge was building the vehicle that literally put the American workforce on wheels. Number 3. Dodge Van Tradesman. America went to work in this van. The Dodge Tradesman was the vehicle that contractors backed into driveways, that electricians parked at job sites, that plumbers loaded with tools before dawn and unloaded after dark. Its front-engine design, the engine sitting between the two front seats under a cover that every owner used primarily as a surface for coffee cups, gave it better rear cargo access than the Volkswagen Type 2 it competed with in the conversion market. And its 360 and 440 cubic inch V8 options gave commercial buyers the power that heavy loads required. By the mid-1970s, the Tradesman had become the vehicle of choice for two completely different buyers: the contractor who needed it to carry materials, and the conversion van enthusiast who needed it to carry carpet, a bed, a porthole window, and a sound system. The two buyer groups agreed on nothing except that the Dodge B-Series van was the most practical canvas available. Number 2. Dodge Charger. The 1970 Dodge Charger and the 1975 Dodge Charger share a name. Almost nothing else. The 1970 car was a fastback coupe with a 440 or 426 Hemi option, a roofline that designers have referenced for 50 years, and quarter-mile capability that period testers documented with genuine astonishment. The 1975 car was a personal luxury coupe built on the same B-body platform with a standard 318 cubic inch V8, a formal vinyl roof, and opera windows. A car that Chrysler's accountants had correctly identified as the configuration the mid-decade market would purchase. But between those two versions lies the complete story of what the 1970s did to the American performance car. The emissions regulations, the insurance surcharges on high-output engines, and the fuel crisis that followed the 1973 OPEC embargo collectively transformed the Charger from a car that car and driver tested at the limit of their instrumentation to a car that car and driver's readers discussed with a specific mixture of nostalgia and resignation. The Charger is at number 2 because it spent the decade being both things at once. The car the 1970 buyer drove off the lot with 375 horsepower, and the car the 1977 buyer drove home with 135, wearing the same name and nothing else in common.
Number 1. Dodge D-Series Pickup. Ford built the best-selling truck in America throughout the 1970s. Chevrolet built the second. The Dodge D-Series finished third, and no buyer who chose one thought they had made the wrong decision. The D-Series entered the decade as the third most purchased truck in the American market and spent the decade building the regional loyalty and platform credibility that its successors would carry forward. Its 318, 360, and 440 cubic inch engine options gave every buyer the configuration their work required, and its mid-decade cab design communicated the visual language of a working truck without departing from the proportions Chrysler's truck division had refined across two previous generations. The adventure package that Chrysler introduced mid-decade began the escalation toward comfort that every domestic truck manufacturer was pursuing, the first signal that the American work truck was becoming something more than a tool. The D-Series is at number 1 because it was in more American driveways with a specific daily need than any other Dodge of the decade. The contractor who needed Chrysler's answer to a working pickup found it sufficient for everything the 1970s asked and kept buying it in numbers that justified every dollar Dodge invested in keeping it competitive.